Chapter 161. The park descended into panic. The vortex of despair radiating from Evan was a physical force, a chilling wind that sapped hope and amplified fear. The beautiful sanctuary was turning back into a tomb before their eyes. Get everyone out! Silas roared, ushering terrified civilians towards the exits. Lyra provided overwatch, her sharp eyes scanning for any secondary threats. But the primary threat was intangible. Kaelen stood at the edge of the swirling darkness, his reflective insight showing him the horrifying truth. This wasn't a phantom or a glitch. It was a pure emotional waveform, weaponized by a sovereign, a despair bomb planted in a human soul. He couldn't attack it. A warden's blade would sever Evan's life along with the despair. His domain could contain it, but it would trap the man inside with the torment, likely shattering his mind completely. He had to heal it. But how do you heal a feeling? Chapter 162. An idea, desperate and unproven, came to him. The Genesis seed worked by transforming corruption. His own power was order. The bastion generated a calm aura. What if he could project that? Not as a field, but as a targeted counter-frequency. He knelt, ignoring the chilling dread that clawed at his own mind. He placed a hand on the ground, connecting to the latent, positive energy of the sanctuary they had built. He focused on the memory of the park's transformation, the laughter of children, the quiet conversations of healing, the determination of the volunteers. He then turned his focus inward, to the paradox core. He remembered its purpose, to mend, to stabilize. He remembered his own choice in the heart of sorrow, to embrace his painful, real world over a perfect fake. He combined these energies, the sanctuary's hope, the core's order, his own hard-won resolve, and shaped it with his will. He didn't push it out as a blast, but as a gentle, unwavering song. A soft, silver light emanated from him, a lullaby of stability against the scream of despair. Chapter 163. The two forces met in a silent, invisible war. The black despair lashed against Kaelen's silver song, trying to extinguish it. He felt Evan's pain as if it were his own. The crushing loss, the bottomless grief, the feeling of being utterly alone. It was a battle of narratives. The Harbinger story was one of endless, meaningless pain. Kaelen's song was one of pain endured, memory honored, and life continuing despite the loss. He poured everything into the song. He showed Evan, through the empathic link, not a denial of his grief, but a path through it. The image of the park itself, renewed, the faces of others who had suffered and found a way to bear it. It was the most delicate use of his power he had ever attempted. He was not imposing order. He was offering it. He was mending a broken heart to save a piece of the world. Slowly, agonizingly, the violent vortex of despair began to calm. The black energy softened to a deep grey, then began to dissolve, like a nightmare fading at dawn. Chapter 164. When the last tendril of despair vanished, Evan lay unconscious on the grass, his breathing even. The withered flowers did not regrow, and the cracked stone remained. But the oppressive horror was gone. The sanctuary had been wounded, but it held. Kaelen slumped forward, sweat pouring down his face. The effort had been more draining than any physical fight. He had used his power on a conceptual level, fighting not with strength, but with empathy and memory. Silas was at his side in an instant. "Kid, you all right? He'll live." Kaelen rasped, nodding towards Evan. "The connection is severed." Lyra approached, her expression grim. This was a message. They know what we are doing, and they know how to hit us where it hurts. The Harbinger had shown them a new tactic. The sovereigns wouldn't just attack their strongholds. They would attack their purpose. They would target the hope they were trying to build. The war for the Veil was now a war for the soul of the city itself. Chapter 165. In the aftermath, the incident was explained away as a mass psychic episode caused by residual eclipse energy. The official story was flimsy, but it was enough for the public. For Kaelen and his team, it was a watershed moment. They had faced a new kind of attack and developed a new kind of defense. Kaelen had discovered a facet of his power he never knew existed. Not just mending reality, but mending the human spirit. He began to train this new ability, which Dorian dubbed Empathic Resonance. He practiced in the Bastion, focusing his will to amplify the calm aura, learning to project feelings of safety and stability. It was subtle, almost imperceptible power, but its potential was immense. He couldn't force people to be happy, but he could create an environment where hope had a fighting chance. They had been forced to become therapists for a traumatized world. Chapter 166. The Harbinger's attack, while repelled, had consequences. The brief but intense burst of despair had acted as a beacon, drawing the attention of other, lesser predators. Over the next week, the city saw a spike in Despair-Ling phantoms. Weak, C-rank creatures that were attracted to and fed on sadness. They were nuisances, not major threats, but their increased numbers were a constant, draining problem for the city's hunters. It was a strategic move by the Harbinger. If it couldn't crush their hope directly, it would overwhelm them with the symptoms of despair, forcing them to spend their resources putting out endless small fires. Obsidian Star found themselves at the center of the response. Their experience with the Memorial Park incident made them the de facto experts on this new phantom variant. They were no longer just fixers or gardeners. They were the city's immune system. And the pathogen was evolving. Chapter 167. Fighting the Despair-Lings was frustrating work. They were slippery, often fading away when confronted only to reappear somewhere else. Traditional combat was inefficient. Kaelen found that his empathic resonance was the most effective weapon. A focused pulse of calm energy would cause the phantoms to destabilize and dissipate far more quickly than any blade or bullet. He began leading hunting parties with his team. Not to kill, but to cleanse. They would move through districts with high rates of negative emotion, with Kaelen acting as a walking bastion. His presence a soothing balm that weakened the phantoms for his team to easily dispatch. It was during one of these patrols that they found it. A nest, not a physical structure, but a confluence of negative emotional energy where the Despair-Lings were spontaneously forming. It was in the basement of an abandoned hotel, a place with a history of suicides. The Harbinger wasn't just sending phantoms. It was creating a factory. Chapter 168. The nest was a chilling sight. It wasn't made of matter, but of solidified sorrow. Weeping walls, floors that felt like walking on crushed dreams, and a constant, silent cacophony of lost hopes. At its center floated a pulsing, black orb, a sorrow core. A focal point for the despair. This was a direct incursion, a beachhead of the Harbinger's domain established within their city. We have to destroy it. Lyra said, her rifle aimed at the core. Wait. Kaelen said, his reflective insight analyzing the structure. It's tied to the location's emotional history. If we just break it, the energy might backlash, poisoning a whole city block. He saw a different way. The nest was a perversion of his own sanctuaries. It took negative energy and amplified it. What if he could do the opposite? What if he could convert it? He approached the sorrow core, his own empathic resonance flaring like a shield against the oppressive gloom. Chapter 169. This was not like healing Evan. This was like trying to perform a heart transplant on a cancer. The nest was actively hostile, a creation designed to reject hope. As Kaelen reached out with his power, the weeping walls solidified into sharp, painful memories that assailed his mind. The floor tried to swallow him in a quicksand of apathy. The sorrow core pulsed, projecting waves of convincing lies. It's pointless. You can't save them. You will fail. Everyone you care about will die. He gritted his teeth, anchoring himself to the memory of the Memorial Park's renewal, to the feeling of the Bastion's stability, to the faces of his friends fighting beside him. He didn't fight the sorrow. He acknowledged it. He accepted the pain of the lives lost in this place. And then he offered something else in return. The concept of peace. Not forgetfulness, but acceptance. The idea that suffering could have meaning, that it could end. He poured this new narrative into the sorrow core, a silver thread of peace into a black hole of despair. The core resisted, shuddering violently. It was a battle for the soul of a place. Chapter 170. The conflict was invisible but titanic. Kaelen stood as a conduit, channeling all the hope and order he could muster into the heart of the nest. The silver light from his body fought against the consuming blackness. He felt his core integrity straining from the effort. He wasn't just using mana. He was burning his own resolve as fuel. Just as he felt his strength beginning to wane, something shifted. The violent resistance of the sorrow core faltered. The crushing despair didn't vanish, but it softened. The weeping walls still wept, but the tears felt cleansing instead of corrosive. The oppressive weight lifted, replaced by a profound, melancholic peace. The black orb of the sorrow core transformed. It became a smooth, grey sphere, pulsing with a gentle, steady light, a sanctuary core. The nest was gone. In its place was another sanctuary, a place of quiet remembrance for the lives tragically lost within those walls. Kaelen collapsed to his knees, utterly spent. He had done it. He hadn't just destroyed the enemy's weapon. He had captured it and turned it into a tool for his own side. He had learned to not just defend against the anomaly, but to reclaim its territory. The Harbinger had lost a key asset, and it would not be pleased.